Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. President, and the City Council. And, you know, this has been a very interesting discussion. I will say that this meeting has not been as contentious as other council meetings, and I do appreciate the input that's received from the citizens today, appreciate the input that's been received from the council. What I will say is the mayor is a very thoughtful man. He does not make decisions in a vacuum. He takes input from professional staff. He goes through a process, and when he considers a particular direction or administrative decision comes about, it is a very timely process. And so the decisions made based upon how we set bike lanes and so forth is based upon the guidance that's been provided to us by this council. It's based upon the guidance provided by the Downtown Partnership and the Downtown Development Authority. It's based upon our plans that have been approved by this council. And so this is not just some random decision that the mayor comes into the office one day and says, hey, Jeff, let's just go and put a bike lane on a particular city street. It is a very thoughtful process. And there is a lot of input the mayor receives from the professional staff. But, you know, as I was sitting here listening to this, there is a point in time that we do have to work together. There's a point in time on how we look at what the needs are of our infrastructure. And some of the council members have heard me talk about this, but my great-grandmother lived to be almost 99 years old. And she grew up in the time when they had horses and buggies, and you didn't go courting unless you had a chaperone with you. But in her lifetime, she went from a period of time where people crossed this country by trains, they went by horse and buggy, to the supersonic age. And one of the things that I found most fascinating in my discussions with her was that period of time in which you went from having horse and buggies to horseless carriages and automobiles. And believe me, the city's infrastructure, the town's infrastructure, those cities and towns were changing, they were growing, and the infrastructure wasn't in place to accommodate both. And I remember my great-grandmother talking about how her father hated the horseless carriages, hated the automobiles, because it frightened the horses, it caused disruption, and there was public safety issues. But that did not stop those cities and towns by looking at the planning and the needs of the infrastructure, because we had the Industrial Revolution, our communities were changing, and we had to have the infrastructure to accommodate all of it. And there's still some parts of our country you go to today in which the infrastructure has to accommodate both horses and buggies and automobiles and bicycles. And also during that period of time, people rode a lot of bicycles. And my great-grandmother talked about that as well. The point I'm trying to make here is about us working together and building collaboration instead of it being a war against whether or not we should have bike lanes or not have bike lanes, is about how we build consensus and how we move forward to address what the infrastructure needs are. I will tell you, growing up, I could not wait to get my driver's license and learn how to drive and have my own automobile and have the freedom that accommodated me. However, my children were in their 20s before they were even interested in even driving. And most of my children did use bicycles and so forth, but they carpooled with other individuals or they used public transportation. But I think it's about time on how we work together, because I will say I've had a mixture of both. I get emails from those who are supportive of the bike lanes. I get emails of those who are not supportive. But I think it's just a point in time in how we work together and look at what the needs are of this community, because as each generation changes and how technology impacts each generation, as a municipality, we have to be prepared for that.
Well, thank you, Jeff. We'll wrap this discussion up.